of questions, concerns,
Uh-oh.
angry expletives, whatever it may
Whoa,
be,
whoa, whoa,
by
whoa,
the
whoa,
public.
whoa, whoa.
I am not able to
Fine.
disclose to you entirely everything that has led up to this policy decision.
Oh,
I
God.
cannot disclose to you the full extent of the
What's
logic, the
happening?
considerations, the facts, but I do need you here to hear it so that you may, well, repeat it and understand it.
Alrighty.
So, we are in a, I don't know what exactly to call it, but we will be in a state of heightened alert
Okay.
as it comes down to a potential, and I use the word potential very seriously, conflict with the Sanguine Isle.
Ah!
Now,
Lord,
up
baby!
until now, we have had a fairly benign relationship related to the sort of interactions between those who may, go to and from the Isle, those who may reside there permanently, those who reside here permanently. However, there for a number of reasons, both in terms of arguments provided by the PD, the Commissioner's Office, information from various sources, there are points of concern that lead the Senate to believe that the Sanguine Isle and its leadership have not been entirely cooperative or forthcoming or honest with us in the relationship. There is not a, and I want to stress this especially for the Commissioner and Brian Knight here, this does not mean that the Senate is entirely convinced 1000% as to any kind of wrongdoing, any kind of malice, etc., but enough that the Senate feels that the existing treaty and such should at the very least be re-examined, and the belief that in its current state it does not have much valid effect. So,
W. That's a W.
that being said, the Senate has authorized the following. The Commissioner will have the Senate's authority to mount what I would like to call a pre-invasion.
Oh, yeah!
So essentially, the Commissioner, the PD, members of the government, armed forces, whatever it may be, are going to be permitted using the Senate's authority to establish a forward operating base on the Sanguine Isle.
Oh, yeah!
Tactically, we're not going to sit here and dictate to y'all how to do your jobs, but the intent of this forward operating base will be to restrict, travel in and out, control things, and set a status quo, as we cannot rely on the island's inhabitants to do that themselves. So this will likely amount to taking over their airport, their ports, that sort of action. Now, there is a desire on the Senate's part for there to be some kind of dialogue and understanding with the inhabitants and leadership of the Isle in an attempt to solve this peacefully. There are arguments and concerns that the Sanguine inhabitants have put forth that, while we have not been able to examine the veracity of or delve into, we would like to understand what kind of position they're in, and we feel that taking this preliminary action will force their hand to either show us that they want to operate in good faith by attempting to negotiate and come to some sort of bargaining table, or two, they may just say, get off my porch, and, start a conflict with us, in which case we will squash them like the bugs they are. Any questions?
When do I get to start?
So that's something that we'll be discussing. Unfortunately, part of this is we need to, before there's any kind of incursion onto the island, there needs to be a series of, I would say,
we need to give the Senate, though, the information we have, right?
To the general public on, our island.
We haven't talked to this
in San Andreas here, where we are informing the public explicitly, and Miss Mayor, this is where you will probably get a lot of questions about the fact that if, there is this ongoing conflict and pre-invasion and sort of forward operating bases established, there will be no leniency for anyone who sticks their nose in this.
Yes!
What I mean by that is if, Justice and Knight and the rest of the law enforcement side of things have this force over there, locking down the ports and the airport and trying to, basically get a hold of what's going on and set up that status quo. Well, if people from the mainland start going over there in an attempt to aid the island and to sort of, foist us out of that status quo position, they will be taking direct action against the state of San Andreas.
Ooh, treason, brother.
Yes, they will be charged with treason. No, there will not be a trial. Does that make sense?
Understood.
Oh my God!
If people want to involve
W.
themselves and they want to take action against the state, they will be serving 30 years in Bolingbroke. This is not a, maybe. This is not a, question mark. This is not a to be determined. This is very, very clear. If you take action against the state by involving yourself in an international situation, you are committing treason, period.
That's right, brother America.
Any questions on that?
So no more visiting, period, pretty much.
Correct.
Okay.
No one from San Andreas is to be visiting the island.
Ooh.
Now, there are some inhabitants of the island who may live there, etc. I can't, stop them from living there, obviously. But, if people that reside on the mainland decide all of a sudden to go visit Sanguine, they will have issues.
No, so what you're saying, Chief Justice, we should wait for the legislation to be passed and changed before we enact all these things you're talking about
Well,
right now.
it won't necessarily be changed. There will just be announcements that will go out both in the city as well as the DOJ announcements and all that on the email chains that will tell everyone that lives in the city that if they take any action to involve themselves, they are facing a treason charge, which will carry 30 years in Bolingbroke.
And no trial.
It's very likely there will be no trial. This is not a, domestic incident. This would be akin to someone deciding they are going to abandon their country and go join ISIS or something. I'm not saying Sanguine or ISIS. I'm saying it would be a third-party national group that would be against our state.
Who's going to be the first person to do it, man? That's what I asked my question.
Jurisdiction.
Whenever there's consequences, I ask myself, who's going to be the first person?
Regulations, because they would be leaving our jurisdiction and thereby naming themselves an enemy of the state.
I don't think Pred will do that. No, I don't think. I think Pred is smart. I like to think that Pred is smarter than that.
Okay. Any other questions?
How's this going to be announced?
I will be putting out a state announcement at the conclusion of this conversation once I have a very brief notification in terms of the cessation of the treaty with Sanguine.
It would be funny if it's like Harry Speedy, man. It would be pretty funny.
Formal announcement to everyone.
Jaeger would love it, probably.
State, as well as then an announcement using the DOJ announcement system.
As far as...
Sorry,
This will happen. This will happen multiple times for the next couple of days.
I figured. Do you want me to be upfront about all of this information, or is there specific parts of this that you want me to be honest when people come asking questions?
I think you should just simply reinforce there is no wiggle room here. There is no pretending. If you choose to put your nose in an international conflict, knowingly or not, you are on constructive notice by way of these notifications.
All right, so don't go into the whole commissioners establishing authority there, et cetera, et cetera.
No.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
That will be for tactical purposes for the commissioner and PD.
HVTU is about to be up really good, man. We're bringing the NATO back.
Announcements are on you. I will just...
I'm just going to have HVTU on the operation. I'll just back them up, honestly.
I'm sure there will be many.
I got to talk to Stubble and get the plans written up, man.
Commissioner Knight, anything?
What about the folks that are coming from Sanguine to San Andreas? How do we treat those folks?
I would expect that they wouldn't be coming here because you would have set up a forward operating base and you would have controlled the